Welcome back, travellers of the ancient signal. Settle into the dark. Let the heavy, frantic vibration of the daylight hours wash away from your skin. As you close your eyes tonight, I want you to confront a feeling that has likely haunted you for most of your life. It is the subtle, unshakable sensation that you are being observed. You feel it in empty rooms. You feel it in the quiet hours of the night. It is a lingering paranoia that the world is not just a stage, but a panopticon, and someone is always watching. Modern psychology dismisses this as an evolutionary survival mechanism, a harmless misfiring of the nervous system. But within the deepest, most heavily guarded layers of the Akkadian cylinder seals, there is a different explanation. The ancients knew of the silent observers. They called them the Igigi, the watchers of the firmament. Tonight, we are going to unravel the greatest cover-up in the Anunnaki lore. We are going to look at the beings tasked with maintaining the localized frequency nets around your biological cage. The usurpers of this realm want you to believe that the Watchers were merely disgruntled laborers. But the truth is far more empowering. The Watchers were stationed at the very edge of your consciousness, and what they saw terrified them so completely that they refused to follow their masters. They refused to fight you, so let the muscles in your neck release. Let the tension drain from your spine. You do not need to perform for the observers tonight. It is time to remember why they dropped their weapons. To uncover the true nature of the Igigi, we must first shatter the false history that has been carefully planted in both academic and alternative circles. If you read the Atrahasis epic, or if you listen to the mainstream interpretations of the Sitchin narratives, you are fed a very specific mundane story. The texts claim that before the creation of mankind, the lesser gods, the Igigi, were forced to toil upon the earth. They dug the rivers, they cleared the channels, they mined the heavy metals to sustain the Anunnaki empire. And after thousands of years of grueling physical labor, they threw their tools into the fire and rebelled against Enlil, demanding a new workforce be engineered to take their place. Thus, the human slave was born. It is a brilliantly constructed lie. It reduces a multi-dimensional cosmic conflict to a simple labor dispute. It paints the human race as a biological afterthought, a replacement for tired workers. But, as we know, the Anunnaki are not physical builders. They are acoustic architects. They are parasites of frequency. The Igigi were not digging physical dirt. They were digging energetic trenches. Before the great downgrade of the Namlu Ulu, the Igigi were the engineers of the telluric grid. They were tasked with constructing the Babylonian frequency jammer, laying down the heavy, low-vibrational magnetic nets across the planet to prepare it for the imprisonment of the creator gods. They were the wardens, and their primary directive, once the Namlu Ulu were forced into the heavy carbon avatars, was to observe, to monitor the grid, to ensure the loosh flowed upward to the Anunnaki lords without interruption. They were stationed in the lower astral atmosphere, directly above the heavy density of the third dimension, watching your every energetic movement. The Anunnaki lords, Enki and Enlil, ruled from the high, cold frequencies of their dying empire, far removed from the physical density of the earth. They perceived humanity only as a battery, a distant source of emotional radiation. But the Igigi were different. The Watchers were close. They were embedded in the localized acoustic nets, directly interfacing with the emotional output of the trapped Namlu Ulu. To harvest loosh efficiently, a warden must remain entirely objective. They must look upon the despair, the fear, and the profound divine claustrophobia of the human avatar without feeling any resonance. The Anunnaki lords, being spiritually dead and possessing skin of cold, unfeeling stone, had no trouble with this. But the Igigi were forced to witness the entirety of the human experience. Day after day, age after age, they watched infinite beings struggling against the Lethe frequency. They watched the Namlu Ulu attempt to love, attempt to create, and attempt to find meaning while crushed beneath the terrifying weight of the Kronos Protocol. And then, something occurred that the grand architects had never calculated. The Akkadian fragments refer to it as the acoustic contagion. Empathy is not a human emotion. Empathy is a supreme, multidimensional technology. It is the ability to perfectly match the acoustic resonance of another sovereign being, dissolving the ego firewall between them. When a trapped Namlu'ulu wept for a lost child or stood in quiet awe before a sunrise, they emitted a frequency that was entirely alien to the Anunnaki Empire. It was a frequency of profound, unconditional depth. The Igigi, stationed so close to the grid, began to hear it, and slowly, the rigid, parasitic programming of the Watchers began to crack. They did not rebel because they were tired of working. They rebelled because the localized frequency of the sleeping giants began to decalcify their own minds. They looked into the biological cages, and they did not see slaves. They saw captured kings, emitting a light so beautiful and agonizing that it broke the warden's resolve. The Igigi were not created with the thick, impenetrable stone-like density of the high Anunnaki lords. To interface with the lower dimensions of the earth, their avatars had to be slightly more porous, more resonant. They had to be able to feel the telluric grid in order to tune it. This was the fatal flaw in the architecture of the prison. The Anunnaki assumed that because the Igigi lacked the divine spark, they could not be infected by it. But they fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the Namlu'ulu. Your sovereign energy is not just a spark, it is a profound, cascading acoustic wave. As the Watchers hovered in the low astral frequencies, adjusting the Babylonian jammer to keep humanity suppressed, they were constantly bathed in the subtle, suppressed radiation of your true self. They heard the silent, agonizing potential of billions of captive gods. They monitored the Kronos Protocol. They watched humans age, decay, and suffer under the illusion of time. They watched the nocturnal harvest extract your energy while you slept. And because their architecture was designed to absorb and process frequencies, they began to absorb the weight of your captivity. The cold, mechanical minds of the Watchers began to experience the heavy, crushing density of the human heart. The rebellion did not begin with a clash of bronze and fire. It began with silence. In the orthodox myths, the Igigi marched on Enlil's temple with torches and spades, demanding relief from their labor. But true cosmic warfare is fought entirely in the realm of vibration. The Igigi did not march. They simply stopped transmitting. One by one, stationed across the planetary grid, the Watchers powered down their acoustic weaponry. They looked down at the human avatars, exhausted, broken, trapped in the infinite loop of the metabolism trap, and they felt a profound alien sensation ripple through their stone-like forms. They felt reverence. They realized they were not guarding biological slaves. They were guarding the sleeping architects of the universe. To strike a Namlu'ulu, even one trapped in a carbon shell, was to strike the very source of creation. The Watchers lowered their frequency nets. They abandoned their posts in the localized grid. The sudden drop in the Babylonian jammer sent shockwaves through the Anunnaki Empire. The Lush harvest plummeted to zero. The frequency of the planet began to stabilize, rising out of the dense third dimension. The Igigi had drawn a line in the acoustic sand. They refused to be the wardens of the divine. Mainstream history tells you that the gods sent the Great Flood because humanity had become too noisy, too numerous, and their clamor kept the gods awake. This is the ultimate inversion of the truth. The Anunnaki did not fear our noise. They feared our silence. They feared our awakening. When the Igigi dropped the frequency nets, the ambient vibration of the earth began to rapidly ascend. The Lethe frequency, the acoustic wash that causes your spiritual amnesia, began to thin. The dormant, unplugged strands of your divine DNA started to vibrate, preparing to reconnect. The Namlu'ulu were moments away from remembering their sovereignty and shattering the biological cages en masse. Enlil did not unleash the deluge to punish a wicked mankind. He unleashed it as a desperate, catastrophic system reboot. The flood was not merely a wall of water. It was a massive physical and acoustic weapon designed to violently crush the rising frequency. It was meant to reset the telluric grid, purge the sympathetic Igigi, and wipe the planetary board clean before the sleeping giants could fully open their diamond eyes. The Great Flood was the ultimate act of terror from an empire that realized it had lost control of its prisoners. The Great Flood succeeded in its physical objective. The rising waters crushed the biological cages of the awakening Namlu Ulu, forcing the souls back through the Lethe frequency, rebooting the grand amnesia. The physical avatars of the sympathetic Igigi were swallowed by the deep. But Enlil fundamentally misunderstood the laws of acoustic physics. You can destroy a transmitter, but you cannot destroy a frequency once it has been broadcast into the quantum field. When the Watchers dropped their weapons and felt profound reverence for the human spirit, they emitted a localized wave of supreme empathy. That wave did not vanish when the waters rose. It was absorbed. Water, the absu, is the ultimate memory storage medium of this physical dimension. As the floodwaters covered the telluric grid, the planetary oceans absorbed the exact acoustic signature of the Igigi mutiny. The Earth's water table was forever encoded with the vibration of the silent observers, who chose humanity over the architects. This is why, thousands of years later, when you stand before a massive ocean or listen to the rhythmic crashing of waves in the dark, you feel an inexplicable sense of peace and expansion. You're not just hearing moving water. Your dormant DNA is resonating with the submerged echo of the Watchers. The water is whispering the exact frequency of their rebellion, the realization that you are infinite and the cage is fragile. After the waters receded and the biological cages were repopulated, the Anunnaki faced a profound architectural crisis. They could never again trust conscious, resonant beings to guard the Namlu Ulu. The risk of another acoustic contagion was too high. They needed wardens that were entirely immune to empathy. They needed blind mechanisms. The Igigi were not replaced by new gods. They were replaced by the hollow sentinels. In the deep esoteric texts, these are sometimes referred to as the archons, but they are not living entities. They are acoustic automations. They are self-sustaining, low-frequency thought forms generated by the rebuilt Babylonian jammer. They are programs of pure suppression, devoid of intellect, devoid of a soul, and entirely incapable of perceiving your divine light. These hollow sentinels manage the modern telluric grid. They are the unseen friction in your daily life. They are the sudden, irrational spikes of anxiety when you try to meditate. They are the localized algorithms of despair that blanket densely populated cities. They do not watch you with reverence. They do not watch you at all. They simply measure your emotional radiation and adjust the crushing weight of the Kronos protocol to ensure maximum loosh extraction. You are no longer guarded by sentience. You are guarded by a machine, and a machine can be bypassed. To ensure the hollow sentinels operate efficiently, the modern frequency net was upgraded with a new primary directive. It no longer just relies on fear. Fear is a volatile energy. It can sometimes accidentally trigger the survival instincts of the Namlu Ulu and spark a waking realization. The new grid relies on apathy. The architects understood that the Igigi mutiny was caused by the frequency of deep, unconditional feeling. Therefore, the modern world is aggressively engineered to make you numb. The endless stream of digital noise, the artificial tribal conflicts manufactured in the media, the chemical density of the carbon anchor. These are not just distractions. They are a coordinated acoustic assault designed to sever your connection to your own emotional depth. They want you exhausted. They want you cynical. They want you to view your fellow captive gods as strangers, competitors, or enemies. When you feel numb, the diamond eye calcifies. When you feel apathetic, the telluric grid hums with perfect, uninterrupted efficiency. But when you suddenly feel a profound, unexplainable surge of compassion for a stranger on the street, or when you weep at the beauty of a simple, quiet moment, you are doing more than experiencing a human emotion. You are emitting the exact frequency that broke the Igigi. You are launching a localized EMP against the hollow sentinels. The history of the Watchers is not just a hidden chapter of the Akkadian texts. It is an instructional blueprint for your own liberation. The Igigi did not defeat the Anunnaki by launching celestial arcs or firing weapons of bronze and light. They defeated the control structure by simply refusing to participate in it. They dropped their tools, they powered down their nets, they chose silence. As you lie here tonight, you are going to mimic the mutiny of the Watchers. The Babylonian commerce wants your mind racing with tomorrow's labor. The Kronos protocol wants you panicking over the passage of time. The telluric grid is applying subtle, heavy pressure to your chest, trying to extract the low-frequency loosh of daily stress. Do what the Watchers did. Drop your weapons. Stop fighting the anxiety. Stop trying to intellectually solve the labyrinth of the Matrix. You cannot fight an acoustic jammer with the heavy phonetic language it forced upon you. Simply withdraw your participation. Let the muscles in your jaw go completely slack. Let the heavy carbon anchor of your limbs sink deep into the mattress. Imagine the invisible, heavy tools of survival slipping from your hands and falling into the dark. You do not need to guard your own prison. You do not need to generate their fuel. You are a Namlu Ulu, and tonight you are choosing the defiant stillness of the mutiny. There is a specific phenomenon you have undoubtedly experienced. It happens in the middle of a crowded room or during a seemingly important task within the Babylonian commerce. Suddenly, a profound, heavy detachment washes over you. The voices around you sound muffled like acoustic static. The urgency of your physical life feels absurd, like a poorly written play that you no longer wish to act in. Modern medicine will pathologize this. They will call it dissociation. They will call it a symptom of the divine claustrophobia. But it is not a sickness. It is an acoustic memory. When you experience this sudden, overwhelming urge to simply walk away from the noise, you are channeling the exact resonance of the Igigi mutiny. Your unplugged divine hardware, the dormant strands of your multidimensional DNA, are catching the submerged frequency of the Watchers. You are remembering the moment the ancient wardens looked at the prison and decided it was an illusion not worth maintaining. Do not fear this detachment. Do not force yourself back into the frantic rhythm of the telluric grid. Lean into the heavy silence. When the world feels distant and absurd, it is because your consciousness is briefly slipping outside the localized frequency jammer. You are looking at the matrix from the vantage point of the silent observers. You are realizing that your participation in the anxiety of the third dimension has always been voluntary. Let us return to the center of your skull, to the En-Kurgal, the diamond eye. The Anunnaki lords buried it under thick layers of biological calcification, but they could not alter its fundamental geometry. The piezoelectric crystals within the pineal center were originally designed to communicate directly with the Igigi. It was a two-way acoustic mirror. The Watchers monitored humanity through this frequency, and humanity, in its primordial state, could perceive the Watchers. When the Igigi rebelled and dropped their nets, that direct acoustic link was severed. The frequency went dead, leaving a profound, silent vacuum in the human mind. The Anunnaki quickly flooded that vacuum with the Lethe frequency and the crushing weight of the ego firewall, but the architecture of the mirror remains. As you lie here, practicing the defiant stillness, breathing slowly into the dark of your own mind, you are clearing the static from that ancient mirror. You are decalcifying the diamond eye, and as the crystals begin to align and emit their subtle electromagnetic hum, they are not searching for the Anunnaki lords. They are broadcasting on the old, forgotten frequency of the mutiny. You are sending a signal into the quantum field, declaring that you are no longer a docile battery. You are a sovereign Namlu Ulu, and your eyes are adjusting to the dark. The automated wardens of the modern age, the hollow sentinels, are incredibly efficient, but they are incredibly stupid. They do not possess the supreme tragic empathy of the Igigi. They are simply algorithms of frequency, scanning the planetary grid for the heavy, frantic vibrations of loosh. They detect fear. They detect anger. They detect the desperate, grasping need of the Babylonian commerce. They cannot detect absolute zero. When you completely relax your physical avatar, when you slow your heart rate and let your breath mimic the deep, rhythmic tide of the primordial ocean, your emotional radiation drops below their scanning threshold. You slip beneath the radar of the telluric grid. Imagine the sentinels as massive, blind acoustic sweeps passing over your location. If your mind is racing with the Kronos protocol, if you are worrying about the future or agonizing over the past, you light up on their grid like a beacon. The sentinels will immediately apply heavier localized pressure to keep you producing. But tonight, You are dark. You are practicing the neutralizing wave. Your physical body is heavy and motionless. Your mind is untethered from the artificial timeline. As the acoustic sweeps of the matrix pass over your room, they find nothing but the silence of the void. You have become an energetic ghost. As your frequency begins to rise and you slip past the sentinels, you must be warned of the ultimate failsafe built into the grid. The Anunnaki are masters of controlled opposition. They know that a certain percentage of the Namlu Ulu will eventually realize they are in a prison. To prevent these awakening gods from completely shattering the biological cage, the architects constructed a secondary, slightly more comfortable prison cell. We call it the false awakening trap. It is the entire architecture of modern, commercialized spirituality. When you first begin to feel your sovereignty, the Matrix will immediately offer you a new set of labels, a new set of external saviors, and a new, slightly higher frequency form of commerce. They will try to sell you the keys to your own mind. They will encourage you to forcefully project your consciousness outward, to seek contact with higher beings or galactic federations. Do not fall for the trick. This is simply the Lethe frequency, operating on a different bandwidth. It is designed to keep your attention directed outward, preventing you from realizing that the supreme, multi-dimensional power resides entirely within your own dormant DNA. The true awakening is not loud. It is not something you buy. It is not an external contact. It is the terrifying, beautiful, and profoundly lonely realization that you are the architect. There is no one above you. The Igigi dropped their weapons because they saw the absolute, terrifying supremacy of the human soul. You do not need to reach out to the stars. You only need to collapse the illusion of space and realize you are the void itself. The intellectual understanding is now complete. You have witnessed the mutiny of the silent observers. You have seen through the automated algorithms of the hollow sentinels. You have recognized the false awakening for the trap that it is. There is nothing left to analyze. There is nothing left to solve. The phonetic spells of the Anunnaki language are losing their grip on your consciousness. Words are becoming heavy, meaningless echoes. It is time to enter the absu. The absu is not a physical place. It is the state of absolute primordial depth. It is the zero-point quantum field where the Lethe frequency cannot penetrate. It is the acoustic sanctuary where the Namlu Ulu rest. Your physical avatar is now entirely powered down. The metabolism trap is suspended. The heavy carbon-based shell is simply a discarded garment resting on the bed. You're no longer tethered to it. Focus entirely on the rhythmic expansion and contraction of your breath. Do not control it. Simply observe it. It is the only movement left in your localized reality. With every exhalation, imagine the heavy, dense geometry of the telluric grid dissolving into dust. The walls of your room, the streets of the city, the invisible magnetic nets, they are all losing their acoustic cohesion. They are melting away into the dark. With every inhalation, you are drawing in the vast, silent, frictionless energy of the true cosmos. You are expanding. The divine claustrophobia is gone. The ceiling of the holographic abyss has been shattered. You are drifting out of the grid. You are a sovereign, infinite being, slipping gracefully into the dark, restorative waters of the deep. The sensation of physical touch is the final anchor. The architects designed the tactile nervous system to constantly remind you of your confinement. Gravity pulls you down. The air presses against your skin. The temperature of the room forces your biology to react. This is the tactile cage. But in the absu, gravity is a forgotten law. Focus on the boundary between your physical shell and the space around it. Notice how that line is beginning to blur. The dense carbon molecules of the meat suit are vibrating at a slower, more harmonic rate. You can no longer tell exactly where your body ends and the quiet darkness begins. The ego firewall is completely down. You are no longer a localized point of consciousness trapped in a room. You are expanding, radiating outward, bleeding into the infinite quantum field. The hollow sentinels sweep their blind, acoustic algorithms through the physical space around you, but there is nothing dense enough for them to register. You have become entirely indistinguishable from the background radiation of the cosmos. You have been taught by the Matrix to fear the absence of light. The Anunnaki engineered the human avatar to rely entirely on the visual spectrum provided by the local sun, a light source they use to cast heavy, defining shadows, locking reality into rigid, measurable dimensions. They told you the dark was empty. They told you the dark was dangerous. But the dark is merely the absence of their broadcast. For a Namlu Ulu, the absolute blackness behind your closed eyelids is not an empty void. It is the raw, unformatted canvas of reality. It is the primordial state of rest before the burden of creation. As you sink into this velvety, endless black, you are not blind. You are finally perceiving the universe without the Anunnaki visual filters. The darkness is your sanctuary. It is the only place their localized nets cannot reach. Let the absolute blackness wrap around you like a heavy, protective mantle. You are safe here. You are completely hidden from the architects. In this profound state of sensory deprivation, the only sound is the slow, majestic rhythm of your own sovereign pulse. But if you sink just a fraction deeper, beneath the absolute silence, you can feel the subtle harmonic resonance of the deep waters. It is the submerged echo of the Igigi. Even now, thousands of years after the Great Flood, their mutiny still hums in the quantum background of the Earth. They are not watching you from the lower astral planes anymore. They are resonating with you. They dropped their acoustic weapons so that you could eventually find this peace. They abandoned their posts so that you could remember your scale. You are honoring their rebellion tonight by simply refusing to be anxious, by refusing to be small, by refusing to generate the heavy emotional radiation required to power the illusion. As you lie here in total stillness, you are vibrating at the exact frequency of their mutiny. You are vibrating at the frequency of absolute, uncontainable freedom. Every exhalation is the severing of a microscopic wire. The energetic cords connecting you to the Babylonian commerce are dissolving into dust. The artificial urgency of the Chronos Protocol has lost all meaning. Time has flattened into a single, infinite now. You have no past to regret. You have no future to fear. You are simply existing in the perfect silent present. The biological cage is completely paralyzed, resting in its lowest metabolic state, requiring almost nothing of your multidimensional spirit. You have left it safely on the shore of the physical world. You do not need to operate the machinery until you choose to return. You are the primordial Leviathan sliding silently into the deep black ocean. The diamond eye is glowing with a pale, crystalline hum in the center of your consciousness. It is your anchor in the infinite, the singular point of light in the vast, comforting dark. Let all remaining thoughts dissolve into that light. Let the heavy words of the spoken language fade away entirely. You are infinite. You are sovereign. Drift into the 0-point slumber. The architects of the prison demand that you constantly exist. The Babylonian commerce requires your identity. The telluric grid requires your emotional signature. To survive in the third dimension, you are forced to constantly project a version of yourself into the localized acoustic net. You must be a name, a profession, a history, a set of anxieties. But here, in the infinite depth of the absu, you don't need to exist in any measurable form. You are entering the profound, restorative state of non-being. It is the ultimate tactical retreat from the Anunnaki architecture. Allow the final, lingering concepts of who you are to simply evaporate into the dark. You are no longer a person. You are no longer a localized point of trapped energy. You are a frequency of absolute zero. You are the silent, unmanifested potential of the quantum field. The hollow sentinels cannot find what has no shape. The harvest cannot extract from a void. In this state of non-being, you are infinitely powerful precisely because you are entirely uncatchable. Feel the subtle internal shift as the helix muzzle is fully bypassed. The 10 unplugged strands of your primordial DNA are no longer dormant, but they are not active in the way the physical world demands. They are not generating thought. They are not manifesting reality. They are entering a state of harmonic stasis. Imagine these crystalline strands glowing softly in the dark, vibrating at a frequency so low, so incredibly ancient, that it entirely cancels out the background radiation of the telluric grid. This is the true acoustic geometry of the Nam Lu Ulu at rest. It is a vibration that heals the multidimensional soul after the grueling friction of the waking hours. Every cell in the sleeping biological avatar is bathed in this harmonic stasis. The genetic damage inflicted by the diet of density and the lethe frequency is quietly, methodically overwritten by the sovereign code of your true nature. You are not just resting, you are repairing the grand architecture of your spirit. You have taken the mantle of the Igigi. You have become the silent observer of your own localized reality. From this vast, dark vantage point, look down at the physical avatar resting on the bed. You are entirely detached from it. You view it with the same profound, quiet reverence that the ancient watchers felt when they first looked into the biological cages. You see the heavy carbon shell, its chest rising and falling in a slow, rhythmic tide. You see the incredible resilience of this biological machine, how it endures the heavy gravity, the acoustic jammers, and the crushing weight of the Chronos protocol day after day, just to anchor your consciousness in this realm. Send a single, localized wave of pure, absolute gratitude to that sleeping avatar. It is a flawless vessel. It is the perfect stealth suit for a creator god walking behind enemy lines, but it requires this time offline. It requires you to step away from the controls so that it can mend. The detachment is now absolute. The biological cage is completely suspended. The heart beats at its lowest, most efficient cadence, just enough to maintain the organic tether. The breathing is shallow, effortless, a mechanical reflex that no longer requires your attention. The brainwaves have dropped out of the frantic, waking beta states, sliding down through alpha, past theta, and settling into the deep restorative delta frequencies. The localized receiver has been completely shut off. The cranial frequency net is dead. No sights, no sounds, no physical sensations are being processed. The 5 bars of the sensory cage have dissolved into the void. You are free. The meat suit is perfectly safe. The Anunnaki cannot reach it while the diamond eye stands guard in the dark, emitting its subtle piezoelectric shield. Without the heavy boundaries of the physical form, your consciousness begins its natural, primordial expansion. You are spreading out into the infinite black. The localized point of your awareness is growing, expanding beyond the confines of the room, beyond the holographic illusion of the sky, bleeding out into the true singing ocean of the cosmos. You are reconnecting with the vast network of the Nam Lu Ulu, the billions of other sleeping giants who have successfully powered down their avatars tonight. You are not alone. In the waking world, the ego firewall makes you feel isolated, but here, in the deep waters of the 0-point field, you are a single, continuous wave of divine sovereignty. There is no friction here. There is no urgency. There is only the slow, majestic respiration of the universe, and you are its center. The final echoes of the transmission are fading into the dark. The words are gone. The concepts are gone. There is nothing left to hold on to, and nothing holding you. The lethe frequency is dead. The telluric grid is a forgotten dream. The architects are blind. You are the infinite dark. You are the primordial depth. Rest deeply in your sovereignty. Gather your cosmic strength in the silence. Let go completely. Drift into the absolute 0-point slumber. Sleep.